4ETV. I'm Dr. Mark, of course, with my better, more intelligent half, Dr. Michele. As we like to say, we're an M&M without the sugar. You know, that's kind of became a standard thing here, and we really want you to know that we have to get up and work this thing out every day too. You know, if you think it's easy for us, you got another thing coming, because it's really not. I have been excited about this one that we're doing right now for quite some time. I've been just chomping the bit. This is family wellness.
Right.
You heard, we're going to talk about family wellness. So if you got your family, I want you to gather them up, sit them around, and sit down and listen and get ready to learn.
Get your kids with you.
Get everybody. You know, we need to teach our kids, and we're going to talk specifically about that in just a moment. But I want you to get everybody around there right now and sit down, because it's going to be time for some family wellness talk.
Family wellness, family healing.
I like it, because we're going to, remember the days, you know, when you were a kid, you know, everybody said, the father, the mother, the parents would set you down, they'd begin to teach and learn. You would learn together. You know, the parents would teach. Well, in the idea of family wellness, that's kind of changed. We've kind of transferred those responsibilities to others. And believe it or not, we as parents, as adults, are called to be examples. And whether we really understand it or not, we really, really are examples, because someone has always watched them. Parents, especially for you, you have this added responsibility of being that example, because children are looking to you first. They're going to do what you do, they're going to say what you say, and they're going to become what you have become. With that said, you know, our parents' jobs are to really guide and to protect, to teach, to train, to lead, those type of ideas. And as we look at all, they're equally important. And these responsibilities, listen, are not intended to be passed on to the school primarily, or to the church primarily, or to the youth pastor primarily, or to anybody else primarily. They're your primary responsibilities. Now, I really understand that the idea of school is the primary intellectual education. But what about the rest of it? Is it up to somebody else? I get passionate, because when something hits my heart, man, I got to be straight about it. This is a problem in the world today. This is a major problem. We haven't, as adults, not just parents, we haven't been leaders. We wonder why this generation, these kids, these teenagers, these young adults are struggling. Guess what? I think we need to look in the mirror. We need to accept responsibility. You know, physically, you look across America, and it breaks my heart. I see this juvenile obesity crisis, and we want to blame it on a program. We want more programs for this. We want to get onto the schools for feeding them junk. We want this, that, you know, get out and be more active. I mean, those things are all great. But what happened to get it like that? Statistically, this will shock you. In 2011, and this is just the most recent statistics that actually are measuring this. There's more coming out this year. They'll be out soon. But in 2011, as of that date, in 11 to 17 age gap, 30% of the young people across the United States of America were considered obese. 30%. You think, wow, that's pretty high. Shockingly enough, the same amount in the same time frame, adults are 30% obese. Well, that kind of tends to make you think, well, it's the same. It's not changed anything. But that's actually a horrible, ominous sign, because if 30% of the adults are obese right now as they've aged and got older, it makes sense that that number, 30% from the 11, 17-year-olds, is going to climb. So it's going to climb past 30%, 40%, 50%. And what about the next generation? What about that? Is the next generation going to be more struggling in the area of physical education? Remember that class we used to have in school, physical education? You ever wonder what happened to that? That went away. I can get on a big tangent about that. You know, you take God out of schools too, and guess what? Bombs, guns, knives, and bullying, violence came in. I mean, we're reaping what we're sowing. And I want to bring this back home to reality. I want us to really catch this day. So I want you to really just get your kids and just huddle them up and listen carefully, because this is important for us to understand. I want us to really handle it. The Bible says in Proverbs 22, verse 6. I want you to go there right now. As a matter of fact, I've got my Bible. I can quote this thing word for word, but I'm going to read it to you just so you know I'm not making this up. The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, train a child in the way he should go, or she. And when he is old, he will not turn from it. Train a child in the way he should go. And when he's old, he will not turn from it. Who's that word to? It's to you and me, isn't it? It's to you, it's to us as adults. Whether you are a parent or an adult without children, somebody's watching. Kids are watching adults. Young people emulate what they see. This idea of family wellness has got to be turned upside down. You know, I identified some ways that adults or parents mislead their kids. And I came up with 7. There are probably more. But I want you to hear these because I believe with all my heart, I know these are inspired by the Lord. Listen carefully. I'm just going to read these to you, and I just want you to really catch the spirit of where this comes. Number 1 way that parents or adults can mislead this next generation. They give the kids candy because the kids want it, and they'll not be quiet until they get it. Are you with me? That'll change you, man. Look at number 2. Parents or adults, we stop by the nearest fast food restaurants because we are too lazy or don't desire to cook. We don't have time. Number 3, once at the fast food restaurants, adults or parents ask the kids what they want. Really? I think we should go to church and have the pastor ask the people, well, what do you want? Just come up with a message like that, just off the random. We're trying to learn here, right? Number 4, if a meal is cooked and the child doesn't want it, the parents or adults will just cook another meal because they got to eat. Isn't it our responsibility to cook healthy meals? Just a question. Number 5, parents today, or adults today, are discouraging physical activity, not because they're outright discouraging it, but they're discouraging by plugging kids into video games or to movies just so they'll be quiet. Just because everybody else does that doesn't make it right. Make your kids go outside and play. Make them get active. Take them away from that electronic babysitter. Because what's being fed into their minds is changing their lives from the inside out. Number 6, if a child is overweight or obese, the parents or the adults, well, they don't address it because maybe they themselves are overweight, obese. See, parents, you got to be examples. Adults, we are examples. We've got to live it out. And the last one I kind of want to lay out for you today is this. Parents or adults, we remain somewhat naive, and we ignore the health risk that obesity causes in our kids. And you know, we're even doing things that increases the likelihood for obesity, as evidenced by the aforementioned 6 that I read to you. If we care about our kids and we care about the health risk, then why are we doing things that are going to encourage greater health risk? Parents, adults, we have to own this responsibility. If you're sitting out there right now, whatever time frame you're listening to this, if that's you, it's not me that's trying to bring condemnation upon you. If that's you and you're feeling that, if the Lord is telling you need to apologize to your kids and own that thing, do it. Because parents, we set the tone for the next generation. Adults, we set the tone for the next generation. People are watching. People are watching. They're looking for examples these days. Why can't that example be you? So what can we do about it? You know, Dr. Michele, I get really passionate about this because it literally breaks my heart when I see young people struggling. It breaks my heart when I see adults struggling. I laid out 7 things that we do to mislead a generation. And I want you to lay out what we can do instead of misleading them to lead them to greener pastures as we're supposed to do. So kind of lay out the 7 things we can do.
Well, one of the first things we talked about was giving candy as reward for good behavior. Well, maybe putting something else in there, like a trip to the park or special time that you actually take them and spend with them, might be a better idea, because candy is not a necessity. Candy does not promote health. In fact, candy is kind of like a ticking time bomb. You're giving your children a time bomb for the development of future health problems like diabetes, metabolic syndrome, weight gain, obesity. We know that sugar is not essential not essential an ingredient, but we do need essential amino acids, which is protein, and essential fatty acids, which are fats. But there is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. In fact, if you can find that literature for me, I would really like to read it.
Yeah, and look at this idea, this sugar craving. Everything has sugar in it. We've talked about that many times. I know you have made the remark to me, and I've said this too. We hammer home the idea of reduction of sugar. Well, we continue to feed it to our kids. I mean, there are holidays that we make sugar like a treat. You know, it's like, let's get some candy and celebrate. I don't know about you, but that's a punishment. When you look at it from a physiological and a biological standpoint, candy, too much sugar is a punishment, correct?
It's a ticking time bomb.
It's like, you know, trying to behave all week long. We try to make good grades in school, and we make an A on a test, and it's like, I'm talking about celebrating with sugar, and then all of a sudden here comes Friday after a good day, a good week of work at school. We made an A on the test. We go into the principal's office and we say, Mr. Principal or Miss Principal, you know, I would really like to have detention now. I'd like you to punish me for doing good. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So we need to stop the reduction of sugar. So give us a second thing that's going to help us out.
Instead of going into the fast food restaurant, just zipping in there to get something quick, we really need to plan better. It's not our children's job to actually plan for us. We need to be better planners and possibly make things that we can stick in the freezer and pull out as freezer meals. We may need to get better snacks like nuts and, you know, low glycemic index fruits that can be available, so that we're not zipping into McDonald's and the fast food restaurants to get something that's quick, simple, and health destroying.
Yeah, how many people we see come into our clinic, and man, they're in a panic. I mean, they're in a panic. Here's a story. You don't understand. I've got kids, and I'm rushing around, and I don't have time in the morning. It's just, I've got to get them out the door. And I stop there. And I typically ask them the question, well, who sets the alarm? Well, I do. Well, who caused everybody to get around late? Well, I did. So who in effect's causing the panic? And if they're still there, you know, they haven't walked off, you know, there's at least some revelation occurring, because we need to plan better. Get up earlier. Go to bed earlier. Plan for success, not failure, not chaos.
Correct. And also, you know, we talked a little bit, you talked about giving children what they want at meals or letting them order their own food. But at such a young age, they really don't know the nutrition and the nourishment and the nutrients that they actually need to make themselves well. So it's up to us to help make them those choices for them. So we need to select the foods that are going to aid in healthy brains, healthy minds, healthy bodies, healthy digestive systems, healthy muscles that lend good function. And by feeding a child good nutrition, we're going to have even better behavior, because we're going to be less agitated from high and low blood sugars, caffeinated drinks that cause high and low spikes of energy. And
you know, I see that, and it's really troubling to me. I just, you know, I want to touch on that just for a second here. The idea of giving the kids their choice about what to put in their mouths is dangerous. Because if they have the ability to choose, the nature of sin is not to choose what's good. It's our job to lead them in the way of righteousness. I hope you hear what I'm saying, because it's our job to protect our children. Feeding them sugars, giving them the idea that they have power is not protecting them at all. It's not sheltering them. It's like saying, here, little Johnny, go out there, and I want you to walk in front of that bus and see if it doesn't hit you. That's kind of what we're doing. It doesn't make sense. We're not protecting the children. We're actually feeding them things that are going to hurt them. All right, I get on a rant, so go ahead with the next one before I get carried away.
Well, and we have picky children that refuse to eat their vegetables, or they'll just only eat certain selective things. Well, instead of doing that, allow them to go a little hungry, and they'll learn to eat. They'll eventually decide to try those vegetables or give certain things a try. So if we continue to encourage them to take on the good habits and the good nutrition, instead of creating such a small, narrow window of only the things that they will eat, and they may be eating it, but it's not really good, solid nutrition and nourishment anyway.
You know, we don't have a dog or a pet, but I have seen people do this with their dogs and treat their dogs or pets better than do their own children. As a matter of fact, if we had a pet, which we might get one day, we're going to feed it the best dog food. And guess what? If the dog doesn't eat that dog food, we're going to keep feeding that dog food until it eats, because we want the dog to grow up healthy and strong. As opposed to, okay, the dog doesn't like that dog food, let me go get him a cheeseburger. Maybe he'll eat that. And we keep feeding them that until they become sick. We really want to do it to our kids. Don't give them the choice.
Oh, and children usually never do better than their parents do. So they are going to follow our habits. They're going to follow the habits of those that go before them. They're going to take on those habits. So by demonstrating good personal behavior, we're going to rub off on the children. And if not only in our nutritional life, but also in our physical life, if we begin to exercise with our kids, like I said when we first started this conversation, instead of giving a child candy as a reward, how about a trip to the park or to the water park or out to decide to ride a bike or to be active instead of rewarding with candy. We know that electronics has really got a lot of our activity these days. We've become overzealous with video games and playing on the TV and sitting in front of the TV instead of going out to enjoy Mother Nature and taking a bike ride. So a change in habit is very important to get better health. We've got to limit our exposure to TV and electronics and move those habits into a better direction by first us setting the example and then rewarding our children in a more proper way.
That's why I, kind of a proponent of activities, like organized sporting activities, because it does promote movement. And that's just not for the kids, it's for the parents. And it's great to go to a park or go swimming or go fishing or go hiking or go hunting or do something that's outdoor, something that requires some physical exertion besides plugging them into an electronic game. If you go out and do some activity, you're going to find that the relationship's going to go too, because guess what's not distracting you anymore? That electronic sedative over there that's taking all your attention away. Put your cell phones away while you go out and do the activity. Don't let them be texting and all that stuff while you're having this. Enjoy the time. Guess what? Over time, they'll appreciate and love you more for that. So I know there's a couple more you got, and I love what you're doing here, so give me another one or two.
Well, we talked about parents not addressing if a child is overweight. That might be painful or emotionally degrading to the child, but oftentimes that's the parent not actually taking on their own responsibility, that they may have health issues and health problems. So it's love yourself and take responsibility for your own physical health and make it your goal, make it your lifestyle, make it your plan to get on that train and get an accountability partner and be accountable to your own weight, because children are looking to us to be the examples. They're looking for us to lead, and they're going to follow our lead. And if we're not leading by example, they're not going to go there. So you can see we're really changing habits from the ground up, starting with nutrition. You cannot out-exercise a bad nutritional plan. 85% of your long-term life outcome is nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. Notice I didn't say diet, I said nutrition. nutrition is 85% of it, and then we add that exercise on there, we're going to be healthy not only from a physical and mental standpoint, but all the way down to a cellular standpoint. Our cells are going to function better, and our bodies will be rewarded.
You know, in today's world of the way things are commercialized, if you will, you know, today, let's face it, sex sells. Thin is in. Skinny is sexy. And you know, you don't think that messes with somebody's mind as they're beginning to look at these commercials and signage everywhere and magazines and everything online. You know, if somebody is struggling with self-esteem and we don't, I mean, I'm not saying you need to push them towards being skinny. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that with all this going out there and the struggle with people being obese these days, there is a psychological war going on. So understand that whole dynamic there and doing something about it and educating your children on this is very, very important. Okay, keep going. You're on a roll.
Well, as we've talked, by not addressing the things that we've talked about by planning and good nutritional habits and exercise and addressing our own personal health issues, we are actually, instead of encouraging and being leaders for our children, we're actually giving them a plate of setbacks. So we need to take the reins and actually run with the reins and begin to plan better and set better boundaries and rules in the household around nutrition and exercise, and then things will follow suit. We'll see not only our lives transform from a healthy standpoint, but our children as well.
It's funny when I heard you talking, I thought of the analogy of, you know, a plate of food. We can serve them a plate of good food or a plate of bad food, but the way things are going these days, it's almost like we're serving them a plate full and a bowl full and a mug full of setbacks and say, eat up, drink up, slurp up, take it all, and good luck with that as you get later in life. You know, and if you're a parent out there and you've been led down this path too, you know, I'm sorry. You know, I mean, you're talking about a guy right here who was led down that path as well. And I had to overcome a little bit of pudginess as a kid, being bullied, and I didn't like that very much. And you know, when I look myself in the mirror right now, a lot of people don't understand this. I've talked to you about this numerous times. When I look in the mirror right now, I do not see, you know, any sort of a muscular guy. I see a short, little, chunky kid. And you know, that's hard to really admit, but it's the truth. And so, you know, you think for a moment the scarring that takes place because we're not doing something about it, we are underestimating the scarring, the mountainous amount of scarring that's taking place. And we need to change that. So if you're out there as an adult right now and you've been through that process, I'm sorry. But it's still time to turn it around. You still have time. As long as you have breath on this earth, you have time to turn it around. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here.
Yes. Well, and nobody will tell you if you're overweight or you're too, quote unquote, fat, but they will always tell you if you're too thin. They will always point out that you're too thin or you might be sickly looking. So it just takes personal accountability. We say take accountability, get an accountability partner, and find somebody to join with so that you can begin to transform your life from the ground up.
There's some days that we get up and I'm ready to roll. And some days I'm ready to roll over. You know, I'm not ready to get up. And it's like, but we have to kind of help each other. And even the other day, I had a couple good days and I was saying, come on, Dr. Michele, let's roll. And once we get in there and get into it, it's really a fascinating thing that happens. We become encouraged.
Yeah. Well, I always tell my patients, it's like, if you have a problem of being too tired, just get your shoes on and get out the door. You will find that you actually will do much more and show up and feel much better if you just get your shoes on and get started.
Yeah, and it's like we have, as you well know, and I appreciate you watching, you know, we share our hearts, we share our lives, we share pieces of ourself here, and we try to become partners with you. We try to be people that lift you up and make you be a person that flies at a higher pace. And we want you to be that kind of person. And to be that kind of person, you got to hang around those people. We have to really guard who we're around on a personal level because You know, let's face it, you become who you are around. If you want to be a leader in this area, hang out with leaders in the area. If you want to still suffer, hang out with people that suffer. You know, we're all suffering people in a sense. That's why we need the Lord. But He's the one that empowers us and encourages us to be all we can be. He wants us to be examples. Hear what I said. Not being led around by culture or by society. Just because everybody else is allowing themselves to become obese or overweight does not mean that needs to be you. You were not born for that. You're born from better than that. If that was the way it's supposed to be, we just might as well be born sick all the time.
Right, and in the clinic, we as a culture in the clinic say that we are setting a standard for a new America. We are no longer standard Americans. We go to gatherings, social gatherings, and we take our good nutrition with us instead of picking up the corn dog and the Pepsi and the things that might make us sick. And then all of those around us say, I want what you've got. What is that? What are you doing? You look so good. You feel so good. And we are creating health by creating a new America and a new lifestyle.
It's funny, we were in the clinic just recently, and someone commented on your skin. You know, I think they were waiting on you to say, what are you putting on your skin? And doesn't she have beautiful skin? I think she's just gorgeous. Of course, I'm biased, but I'm supposed to be, but it's wonderful. But I look at this. So what did you tell them about your skin?
That it's nutrition. I don't have a fancy skin regimen. I clean my skin with a good cleanser and use a good moisturizer, but 85% of it is nutrition.
See, and it's really all about living this thing out. We give you practical information. If you've enjoyed what's been communicated to you on 4E TV today or in the past, or any time that you've tuned in, I want you to tell us about it. Get on our websites and just check out the free information. We want to encourage you. A lot of the stuff that we talk about, we put in there in the form of blogs or articles. There are things you can get on there such as devotionals. You can take the value pledge. I encourage you to do that as well. Pray for us. We appreciate that. And if God lays it on your heart to support us financially, please do that. It's a nonprofit 501c3, and their gifts are tax deductible as the law allows. So, for Dr. Mark and Dr. Michele, we're grateful that you allow us to be in your homes today. So God bless you. Be healthy.